Enter, rejoice, and come in. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Today will be a joyful day. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Open your ears to the song. Open your ears to the song. Today will be a joyful day. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Open your hearts, everyone. Open your hearts, everyone. Today will be a joyful day. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Don't be afraid of some change. Don't be afraid of some change. Today will be a joyful day. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Today will be a joyful day. Enter, rejoice, and come in.
Good morning, and welcome to our service today. My name is Diane Dancer, and I've been a member of San Gabriel UU Fellowship since 2014. And prior to my fellowship, to joining the church at that time, I go back to ages 1 to 12 as a Unitarian. And I grew up in a family with very dedicated Unitarians. My father was with the government. We moved a lot, so if we went to a community that didn't have one, my parents would start a fellowship. So our entertainment and our friends, parties, cocktail hours, kids were playing, of course. We're all centered around Unitarian ideologies and respect for all the things that we find special. Since I've been with San Gabriel, I am a member of Connections and of our Habitat team, and it's a wonderful way to bond with others. And I think we're going to have a couple of slides today that might show some of our grounds, which are a certified wildlife habitat. So make sure your phones are silenced. We don't want to hear any ringing phones. And as with all of our in-person events, if at any time during the next 2 weeks you test positive for COVID, please contact our board president so she can initiate contact tracing. Let us begin. We're very fortunate to have Jean Olson with us as our pianist today, and she will play our Prelude, which will help us center and settle in as we begin the service. San Gabriel is a congregation that welcomes all, promotes personal and spiritual growth, and works for a just, peaceful, and sustainable world. Together we are building beloved community where all are valued. We welcome you today and every day. Later on in the service, we will hear a sermon from our part-time contract minister, Reverend Jamie, titled In Bloom. The Soul Matters theme for April is Awakening. It is our custom to light our Unitarian Universalist symbol of faith, a flaming chalice. And the words today are titled The Sacred Power of Justice from our very own Reverend Jamie. We light this flame to ignite the sacred power of justice. We light this flame so that it may be a beacon of hope. In times of uncertainty, fear, anxiety, and the unknown, we light this flame and are emboldened by its blaze, knowing our strength as a prophetic and powerful people is rooted in the diverse ways we answer the call to love. Our opening song encourages us to come and go to that land where we will find freedom, justice, and singing. It is hymn 131, Love Will Guide Us.
So, I never officially told you what to call me. Some of you have been saying Rev Jamie, some of you have been saying Rev Randall, and some of you have been calling me Rev J. All those are fine, just don't call me she. My pronouns are they and them. I know that this is a lot of hard work for you all. We don't need to hear about it every time that you correct yourself. Just correct yourself and move on. It's okay. I know that you mean well. We're both learning together, and we will get through it. And I also have been getting some feedback that I do not share enough of my personal life with you, so you all feel a little disconnected. So I want to let you know I'm published in this book called Shelter in This Place. It's the In Spirit book for last year. And this is something I wrote when I was a hospice chaplain, and it's also our opening words, so I wanted to share that with you all. Recently, a friend asked me how many deaths I had witnessed as a healthcare chaplain working through a pandemic. I told them the truth, that I had stopped counting the number of bodies I helped move to a gurney a long time ago, because the numbers are not healthy for me to think about. And anyway, the important thing about people is all the good stuff and the details that remain in our heart when the body moves on. This is what matters most, in my opinion. For it is the heart that echoes back to us the memory of their unique laugh, or their love of flowers, or their spirit on fire for justice. or the way they showed up for their community, children, family, friends, and pets, for instance. These are the attributes I remember that make people a person to me. And when we are missing a person, it means we are missing a friend, a family member chosen in blood, God forbid, a child or a beloved partner. These memories are infinite and should not be reduced to black and white numbers on some random graph chart or checklist conjured out of morbid curiosity to prove just what exactly. Thank you for letting me share that with you. Yes, Karina? What is it?
Can I give it to you?
Yes.
I have one too. It's a new name tag.
Ooh, fancy.
It says, and I've got my pronouns on mine, and I put yours on your name tag too.
And it says they, them.
And so I encourage all of us to think about our name tags and maybe what we could do to change our name tags to make them more welcoming so we can all be clear about who we are to one another. Does that sound good?
Yeah. Thanks, Karina. And now we move on to our affirmation. The doctrine of this church,
The quest of truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge in freedom, to serve humanity in fellowship, to the end that all souls shall grow in harmony with the divine. Thus do we covenant with each other.
our director of religious education, Karina, has a story for all ages. I wonder what's in the Wonder Box today.
Good morning. Hello out there in live stream land. It's good to be with you today too. It's lovely to see all your faces. And yes, I have a Wonder Box. Let's help one another. This is what we talk about in our principles when we say we are going to help each other learn and grow. And sometimes what we hear one another, as we guess and make guesses as to what something might be, we learn from each other. So I'm going to shake this around, and you can shout out from where you are what you think might be in here. Marbles? Legos? Rocks? Those are excellent guesses. And yeah, this is quite the clue today. Sometimes the Wonder Box doesn't make any noise at all, but let's see what we've got here. They're little seeds, and each one is kind of old because they were from the fall of last year when they fell in my yard. They're acorns. What do you think of when you see an acorn? Squirrels eating them to stay warm, to stay full. What else? Anything else about acorns? Oak trees. These are two different kinds, from a live oak and a red oak. Any other questions? Any other thoughts? So keep acorns in mind as you hear today's story. Let's take a look.
The Promise by Nicola Davies, illustrated by Laura Carlin, published by Candlewick Press. When I was young, I lived in a city that was mean and hard and ugly. Its streets were dry as dust, cracked by heat and cold, and never blessed with rain. A gritty yellow wind blew constantly, scratching round the buildings like a hungry dog. Nothing grew. Everything was broken. No one ever smiled. The people had grown as mean and hard and ugly as their city, and I was mean and hard and ugly too. I lived by stealing from those who had almost as little as I did. My heart was as shriveled as the dead trees in the park. And then, one night, I met an old lady down a dark street. She was frail and alone, an easy victim. Her bag was fat and full, but when I tried to snatch it from her, she held on with the strength of heroes. To and fro we pulled that bag until at last she said, "If you promise to plant them, I'll let go." What did she mean? I didn't know or care. I just wanted the bag, so I said, "All right, I promise." She loosened her grip at once and smiled at me. I ran off without a backward look, thinking of the food and money in her bag. But when I opened it, there were only acorns. I stared at them, so green, so perfect, and so many, and understood the promise I had made. I held a forest in my arms, and my heart was changed. I forgot the food and money, and for the first time in my life I felt lucky, rich beyond my wildest dreams. I slept with the acorns from my pillow, my head full of leafy visions, and in the morning I began to keep my promise. I planted beside roads, on roundabouts, among rubble, ruins, and rusty railings, by train tracks, tram lines, and traffic lights. In abandoned parks and gardens laced with broken glass, behind factories and shopping malls, at bus stops, cafes, blocks of flats. I pushed aside the mean and hard and ugly, and I planted. Nothing changed at first. The gritty wind still scratched the parched, cracked streets. The people scowled and scuttled to their homes like cockroaches. But slowly, shoots of green began to grow. Trees, first here and there, then everywhere. People came onto the streets to see. They touched the leaves in wonder and they smiled. They took tea together by the tiny trees. They talked and laughed, and pretty soon they were planting too. Trees and flowers, fruit and vegetables in parks and gardens, on balconies and rooftops. Green spread through the city like a song, breathing to the sky, drawing down the rain like a blessing. But by then, I was already far away, planting in another sad and sorry city. And another, and another, and another. And last night, in a lonely alley, a young thief fought me for my sack of acorns. I smiled and made the old bargain, knowing how a heart can change, knowing that my planting will go on. The end.
So it is a story for all ages, right? Children's stories have a lot of power, and this was certainly a complex story with so many different things happening in it. And so I really hope it gives you pause and that you keep that in mind as Reverend Jamie is preaching about balance, night, day, life, grace, forgiveness, power, change, all these things. And of course, for us, we've been gardening and we are continuing to grow and plant things. And so I'm looking forward to that. We'll go do some more of that in just a minute, but I'm also eager to hear what kids thought about this story and who was right and who was wrong, and do we even know that? So, are we ready to go? All right, let's go.
We take an offering each week. We take an offering each week to sustain this space that we call home and to support the work of our fellowship. As the ushers collect the offering, please know how grateful San Gabriel is to each of you for giving of your time, your talents, and your financial support. Now we're going to enjoy listening to Jean play. Now thank we all our God. No? On Eagle's Wings. All right, on Eagle's Wings. Let it sing.
Now it's time for our joys and Ron, do you want to come up? Okay, I'm being signaled from the back.
Sorry, I got here a little late because for some reason I thought it would be a good idea to do a play date for my daughter's school before this. So anyhow, it's been a busy morning. Okay, so my name is Jennifer Clary, and I think I'm just talking very briefly about why I give to St. Gabriel. So I just moved to Georgetown about a year and a half ago, and I live just a few blocks away. And when we were looking at houses and saw the fellowship on the corner, I was like, yes, we need to live here in this neighborhood. I have been a UU since I was in college, and I've had the luck to sort of live in different places across the country, and I've always found the closest UU congregation so that I can sort of like find my spiritual home. So I think I came here about a year ago for the first time. It was the flower ceremony. I think that was like a year ago, maybe. And Karina has just been amazing. I have a now 4-year-old, and just getting to come here when we've been able to do safe in-person things has made such a difference. And I just feel lucky that we're in a place where we're able to do things like this again. So that is why I give. It only took me being here for like a week or something, and I was like, I'm ready to become a member. I want to start giving on a monthly basis. So that is why I give, and I think others should consider doing what you can as well. So thank you.
Another good morning. I'm Ron Karish. I'm your treasurer. A week ago, we announced the beginning of our pledge drive for the next fiscal year. And materials went out sort of the middle of the week, the end of the week. Already I have received pledges from the U.S. mail, the email, the phone, and a couple of in-person handoffs. So with only a couple of days for people who have received this information to get something through the process, we have accumulated $35,000 of pledges for next year. Given the timing, I think that's pretty darn good. So you will get an update each week. We'll put it in the messenger each week. We will finish the pledge drive on April 24th. Our goal is $200,000, and I am enthusiastic and optimistic that we will achieve that. So thank you for your generosity, and if you have any questions, my name and phone number and email are going to be in the messenger each week. Please contact me, and I'll do my best to address your questions. Thank you.
If you have a joy or concern, there's a piece of paper that you should have gotten before the service. Also, Michelle, that does everything here, is running around with pieces of paper. Yeah, so if you are viewing online, I send something out in the newsletter, send me an email, and we're going to try to incorporate joys and concerns into the service because it's part of what our community is going through, and we want to have a sacred time to have that, and not at the end when everybody's trying to get to your car and get on to your next thing on your Sunday. So we are trying to really carve out some sacred space inside of service to lift up our community. And so what we'll probably do is have a designated person bring them forward about this time or before service. We're still playing with this. And sorry, Michelle, I know you have a concern with Ukraine. If you want to come up again while you're still moving around and bring up the other joys and concerns, we can move into joys and concerns. So we're still working on streamlining processes, but hopefully this will be smoother each Sunday.
Folks, I think like many of you, Ukraine is on my mind. And it's been so for over a month. And many have asked, how can we help? And so Lou and I receive emails from the UU Social Justice Committee, and then there's a UU Service Committee as well. And this week, the UUSC, the Service Committee, sent out, there are 2 organizations that they're recommending that we could support as UUs. And they ask that you support them directly. One of them is the Hungarian Helsinki Committee, and the other one is FEM Fund, that's F-E-M Fund. So I do have information here if that's of interest for you. I just recommend that you explore it online and see if that aligns well with how you would like to support those in Ukraine as refugees at this time. Thank you.
I have a joy from Sarah Smith, who uses any pronouns. On Saturday, I'm taking my 6th grader and his best friend to their first Comic-Con in Waco. That's going to be a splendid day. Are there other joys and concerns that need to be brought forward? All right. Will we lift up those named and not named? And we'll have a moment of silence for 20 seconds. Oh, I forgot. Reverend Kaya Hartwood was ordained yesterday, and so that's a joy. And so she is going to be at Brazos Valley. And so we have another colleague amongst us and another minister in the area. So we'll move on to a moment of silence for 20 seconds, and then we will have a breathing meditation candle video.
We are delighted to have Reverend Jamie Handel, a board-certified chaplain, and our newly hired part-time contract minister with us today, offering us words of wisdom.
Acting Director of the Texas Unitarian Universalist Justice Ministry, Reverend Aaron Walter, and I met up this week to discuss some upcoming actions. Before closing out our time together, she reminded me to, quote unquote, get out and do something outdoors. After all, this weather is what Texas is all about. Reverend Aaron is very wise, and I heeded her advice as soon as I got a break. I was able to go out on a few lovely walks around my neighborhood to clear my mind and get some blood flowing between meetings and work this week. I hope you are enjoying this weather too. If hiking is your thing, I hope you found some time to do that. Or maybe you simply sat outside on a patio and got caught up with friends, or found some time to read in the sunshine in your favorite chair perched up against a shady spot. As I was out on my walk, I was thinking about the story we heard today about acorns. As I looked up at the big, powerful, towering trees around me, their leaves and branches creaking in the wind, I could not help but wonder about their journey and their process. How could something so tiny as an acorn become something so big, such as a towering oak tree, that provides shelter, home to small creatures, and helps provide the air we consume? This is the kind of information that they typically do not teach you in seminary, so I had to look it up. The internet informed me that after germination, it takes a mere 4 to 6 weeks for the first shoot of an acorn to appear. The internet also made it seem like all that was needed is a dark and damp environment with sunlight to make this happen, but I knew better. I knew that before becoming an oak tree, this acorn must survive some fairly significant trauma. Springtime is riddled with bizarre weather patterns, too cold, too hot, too wet, not wet enough. And then there are the squirrels. Hungry squirrels looking to both eat and store acorns for future buffets. Did you know squirrels eat 10 to 15% of their body weight per day? That's a lot. And as their body weight increases, their food intake does as well. Well, now we both know that, thanks Google. So this acorn, much like me, much like you, much like our fellowship of St. Gabriel, suffered some contentious squirrels. We had a pandemic squirrel. We had some toxic environment squirrels. We have oppression squirrels. We have war and poverty squirrels. We have housing and income insecurity squirrels. We have a terrible governor squirrel who keeps trying to literally harm the most valuable individuals and families in our state. And that acorn, it's hiding in the ground, wondering if it will be able to withstand all of these squirrels that keep looking for it. It might feel afraid about changing, showing itself above ground, or becoming something that is so out in the open for all to see. But then the acorn remembers that deep down inside its darkness, right at its core, that this acorn loves the sun. It longs to be with the sun again. It longs for the nourishment and energy the sun brings. It longs to be in bloom. So slowly, it gathers its courage, and without even knowing which direction is up, it pushes itself out of the ground and reunites with its beloved sun. This initial push through the hard soil is a leap of faith. Only the acorn can decide when it's ready. And it has to trust that with enough effort, enough strength, enough courage, enough fellowship, it can reunite with the warmth of the sunlight. We get to do the sacred work of deciding what the church is post-pandemic. Our congregation has been through a lot in our growth process. We have survived the trauma squirrels, and slowly we are gathering strength, gathering courage, gathering effort. Soon it will be time to push through the ground and bloom into who we are called to be for the community, for Georgetown, for the entire world. Unitarian Universalism is inside of a cultural shift. We are unlearning white supremacy, capitalism, and we are widening the circle to be more inclusive. And in order to be more inclusive, we have to be willing to do that hard work of surrendering to growth. We have to let it crack open our outer shell and let the light in. The acorn only knows that it loves the sun. It strives for it, lives for it, basks in it. It doesn't know that it will become a majestic oak tree. It only knows how much it loves the sun. Surrender to your love. Let it grow you, heal you, become part of your body. Let it be the strength you need to become the shelter for the birds, the bringer of oxygen, the shade, and even, in time, the bearer of new acorns. If all you know is that you love the sun, let that be enough. So number 318 is our closing hymn, We Would Be One.
We extinguish this chalice here today with these words, but not the chalice in our hearts. With words, closing words by Melissa Jeter. We extinguish this chalice today, but we are illuminated by a faith that allows us to sit and think. In this quiet time, we can reflect in solitude, meditating on love, and growing out of our comfort. Though we experience discomfort, we are excited to give birth to a new, just world.
And now may we go forth in the certainty of faith, in the knowledge of love, and in the vision of hope. And in our going, may we be blessed with all good things on this day. And forevermore. Amen. May it be so.
I'm grateful for the sun that shines. I'm grateful for the rain. And when life's bumps and life's bruises come, I'm grateful all the same. So just knowing I am a lonely soul, hand in hand with a world full of lonely souls, brings peace and love to my beating heart, and faith blooms in me again. I'm grateful for music that I may hear. I'm grateful for a tune, the songs that seem to flow through my mind like a river chasing the moon. So just knowing I am a lonely soul, hand in hand with a world full of lonely souls, brings peace and love to my beating heart, and faith blooms in me again. I'm grateful for a smiling face. I'm grateful to see you today. I'm grateful for nature around us all, and for feeling each joy and each pain. Somehow knowing we are all lonely souls, hand in hand with every lonely soul, brings peace and love to each beating heart, and faith blooms in us again. And what is this faith that I'm speaking of? It isn't in some old bearded man up above. It's music and poetry, beauty and love in all of us everywhere. It's music and poetry, beauty and love in all of us everywhere.
I'm glad you could join us today. Be sure to read the weekly messenger for ways to stay connected to the fellowship through groups and meetings.